A toddler learns that spoons can launch yogurt. A teenager decides that jumping from a roof into a swimming pool is probably fine because 3 friends are watching. An adult opens a work email and instantly feels 12 years old. Then an older person forgets why they entered the kitchen, but remembers a song from 1968 perfectly. These look like unrelated glitches in the human operating system, but they are connected by one fact. The brain does not simply grow during childhood and then remain finished. It keeps reorganizing itself across an entire lifetime. Not in one smooth, orderly climb. It changes in overlapping stages. Early childhood emphasizes rapid construction. Later childhood becomes intensely social. Adolescence remodels motivation and control. Adulthood adapts existing networks to new demands. Aging changes the balance again. The brain is less like a statue being completed and more like a city that never stops rebuilding. Some neighborhoods expand. Some roads become faster. Some shortcuts disappear. And at no point does a tiny official appear with a clipboard and declare the project complete. To understand the first stage, imagine arriving in the world with an enormous number of possibilities, but very little useful experience. A baby's brain must learn which sights matter, which sounds belong to language, how bodies move, whether a particular face is safe, and why gravity keeps attacking the same cup. Early development involves a burst of connection building. Neurons communicate across junctions called synapses. Experience helps strengthen some connections, while others weaken or are eventually removed. This is not simply growth, it is growth followed by selection. That selection allows the brain to become better matched to the environment it actually inhabits. An infant begins broadly sensitive to many patterns. With repeated exposure, the brain specializes. It becomes efficient at processing familiar voices, faces, movements, and speech sounds. This is why early development includes sensitive periods. During these windows, certain kinds of experience can have an unusually strong effect on particular circuits. Sensitive does not mean that learning becomes impossible later. It means the same learning may become slower, harder, or organized differently. And babies do not wire themselves alone. Much of early brain development happens through relationships. A baby babbles. An adult responds. The baby points. Someone names the object. The child cries. A caregiver provides comfort, information, or occasionally the wrong snack. These back-and-forth exchanges are sometimes called serve and return interactions. They help build the foundations of communication, emotional regulation, and social understanding. A conversation begins long before a child can hold one. At first, it may consist entirely of eye contact, squealing, and a detailed investigation of someone's nostril. This social dependence makes sense for our species. Humans have unusually long childhoods. Large, complex brains require time to develop, and human survival has always depended heavily on learning from other people. A young human must absorb language, local dangers, food rules, tool use, relationships, customs, and the important cultural fact that everyone becomes upset when you lick the communal object. Our extended childhood is expensive. Children require years of protection and care, but it gives humans something powerful. Instead of relying only on instincts, each generation can download knowledge from the group, not genetically, but socially. During later childhood, the brain becomes increasingly skilled at navigating that group. Children learn that other minds contain beliefs, intentions, preferences, and secret opinions about their drawings. They become more sensitive to rules, fairness, reputation, belonging, and comparison. Play is part of this training. Games teach prediction, cooperation, competition, negotiation, and emotional recovery. A playground dispute over whose turn it is may look trivial to an adult. To the developing brain, it is a small political crisis involving property rights, coalition management, and one highly contested plastic shovel. Then adolescence arrives, and the city begins another major renovation. The popular version says teenagers behave unpredictably because their prefrontal cortex is unfinished. There is some truth buried inside that idea, but it is too simple. The prefrontal cortex supports abilities such as planning, inhibition, working memory, and weighing consequences. Its connections continue changing through adolescence and into young adulthood. But adolescent behavior is not produced by one incomplete brain region waiting for installation. The whole system is changing. Connections are being refined. Myelination increases along many nerve fibers, improving the speed and reliability of communication. Networks become more specialized and coordinated. At the same time, reward, emotion, novelty, and social information can become especially influential. This combination helps explain a familiar contradiction. A teenager may demonstrate excellent reasoning in a calm room, then make a spectacularly different decision when excited, stressed, or observed by friends. The ability may exist. The conditions change which signals dominate. Peers matter, because adolescence is partly a transition away from the family and toward the wider social world. From an evolutionary perspective, learning to form alliances, attract partners, establish status, and operate independently would have been essential. Increased sensitivity to acceptance and rejection is not merely pointless drama. It is a social learning system turned up very high. Unfortunately, the ancestral version did not include group chats, public follower counts, or the ability to receive evidence of exclusion while lying in bed at 2 in the morning. Adolescent novelty seeking can also serve a purpose. Leaving familiar territory, exploring, and testing abilities can produce learning and independence. The same openness creates vulnerability to dangerous environments and powerful rewards. Plasticity is never simply good. A brain that changes readily can learn useful skills, harmful habits, resilience, fear, or all four before lunch. Another misunderstanding is that the brain suddenly becomes fully mature at 25. Development does commonly continue into the 20s, especially in systems involving complex coordination and self-regulation. But 25 is not a neurological finish line. Different features follow different timelines, and people vary. There is no birthday on which the prefrontal cortex receives a ceremonial key and begins making sensible choices. Adulthood does not end the rewriting. It changes its style. Adult brains are generally less open-ended than infant brains, which is useful. You do not want to rebuild vision or language every time you enter a new grocery store. Stable networks let adults perform familiar tasks efficiently. The downside is that efficiency can become rigidity. A well-used mental route is fast, even when it leads directly to the same argument you have had 11 times. Still, learning changes adult brains. Repeated practice can alter the strength of connections, the coordination between regions, and measurable features of brain structure. When an adult learns an instrument, a language, a sport, or a new route through an unfamiliar city, the brain does not merely store a file. It adjusts the system that performs the task. Adult plasticity is often more specific and effortful. Existing knowledge shapes what is noticed and how new information is interpreted. This can slow certain kinds of learning, but it can also accelerate them. A beginner sees isolated facts. An expert sees patterns. Major life changes can trigger broader adaptation. Parenthood, migration, grief, injury, a new career, or years spent caring for another person can reshape habits, attention, emotional responses, and identity. The brain that enters an experience is not exactly the brain that leaves it. Then aging introduces another shift. Some brain regions shrink, communication may become less efficient, processing speed, multitasking, and rapid recall can become more difficult. A name may feel present but inaccessible, as if stored in a cabinet whose label has fallen off. But aging is not a uniform slide into mental fog. Older adults can continue forming memories and learning skills. Vocabulary and accumulated knowledge are often well preserved, and experience can support judgment in familiar situations. A younger brain may retrieve information faster. An older brain may have a better idea of which information matters. Plasticity also continues, though its pace and limits change. The aging brain can recruit alternative networks, strengthen practiced abilities, and develop new strategies. Adaptation may involve doing the same task differently, rather than restoring the exact pattern of youth. This is the larger lesson. Human development is not a ladder with childhood at the bottom and finished adulthood at the top. It is a sequence of changing trade-offs. Early flexibility allows the world to shape us. Childhood social learning fills the brain with culture. Adolescent sensitivity pushes us toward independence. Adult stability turns practice into expertise. Aging may reduce speed while preserving and sometimes deepening knowledge. No stage is simply better. Each solves certain problems and creates others. So the toddler experimenting with yogurt, the teenager performing for friends, the adult reacting with an ancient embarrassment, and the older person remembering an old melody are not examples of a brain working and failing at random. They are snapshots of the same lifelong process. The brain keeps revising itself around what is repeated, what is needed, who is nearby, and what the world demands. You never receive a final brain. You receive a brain that keeps becoming a record of how you have lived.